Hello, I'm Sean, and this is Sitecore for Content Managers, Lesson 4, Experience Editor. So in this lesson, I want to go through the Experience Editor, at least for some simple examples, simple pages. There's a few concepts that we need to understand before the Experience Editor will make sense. So I'm going to talk about the component model. Sitecore pages can be built using this model, which allows you flexibility around the structure of your pages. We're going to need to understand what placeholders are, renderings, data sources. We'll go through rendering parameters. We'll get a quick look at our rich text field in some examples, and then presentation details and how that works. So component model basically structures a web page as a series of blocks, components, if you will, and they are usually structured as full width horizontal components that stack. So in Sitecore, a component is called a rendering. You have the ability to determine what order your components are displayed in as a content author. Placeholders are where renderings live on a page. So a page will allow or may have several or just one, like in our case, one placeholder, but it could have a few placeholders, and those are places where you can keep various renderings. So some placeholders do restrict which renderings can go into them. For example, you may have a placeholder at the bottom of a page, and you may only want components that are designed to work as, say, footers to go into that placeholder. Data sources give you control over where your components retrieve their content. So in Sitecore, by default, renderings will go to the page item for the content. It'll look for the fields it needs on that item. But you have the power to override that by selecting a data source, which may be another item in the content tree. And this gives you the ability to share content across pages. All right, let's go into Sitecore and try some of this out. So I'm already logged in. I'm just going to go, actually I'm logged in as admin. Let me just log in as content author. That's better. Okay, so you can see that I've added a folder called Site Data, and that's where I'm going to put the shared content that we're going to use for our data sources. But let's start with some of the basics around Experience Editor. So I'm going to open the home page using Experience Editor. So this should look familiar. This is our sandbox site. And what I'm going to do is put this in edit mode. I'll lock and edit. There we go. Okay, so if I click on this, the banner, I get an outline around it. So this is a rendering, and the rendering is called banner, and I can see some of its properties here. If I open the more, so I can get to the rendering properties, and I can also see the placeholder that this rendering has been added to, and that placeholder is called content. So if I pick that placeholder, now I get these little tabs on every rendering. So structurally, just like in this picture, we've got a banner, we've got our USPs. We're going to add this, and then we've got a footer. So if I go to Experience Editor, I can see here's my banner, here's my USPs, and here's my footer. So what Experience Editor gives you is the ability to insert more renderings in between the existing ones. So what we're going to do is add that text and image rendering in between the USP component and the footer. So we hit this to add a rendering, and it gives us a list of all the renderings that are valid for this placeholder. So the banner is one, we've already got one. USPs, that's this one. Footer, so we've already got these renderings on the page. But what we want to add is this text image blocks rendering. So once we add it, it pops up its properties, and it shows us the name of the placeholder that it's being added to. But it also gives us a data source that we can pick. So let's go and select a data source for this component. So there isn't anything available right now. So we're going to have to create a data source. So I've got site data, that's a folder. So that's not a valid data source, so I don't want that. I'm just going to clear that, leave it blank, hit OK. And now we can see our component's been added, but there's an error. There's a message being displayed indicating that data source is missing. So let's go and add that. So I'm just going to head back to Content Editor. I'm going to go to Site Data. I'm going to right click, hit Insert, and I'm going to add a text image block because I know that that is a compatible item for this rendering that we're adding. So let's call it homepage block 1. I'm just going to give it a title. Let's grab some placeholder text. Paste that. We'll just do a link, do an external link, do a Google. Nice and easy. Pick an image. So it's not taking us to a nice default place for images. So we can use this one. So we'll save that. It's going to publish this. Now you notice this item didn't go through workflow. It actually doesn't have a workflow on it. If we open the workflow, there's no workflow defined. So what that means is it doesn't need to be submitted and approved. It still needs to be locked, but that's it. Lock and unlock is all you can do. So if I hit check in, now it's it's no longer locked, and if it also won't auto publish. I'm going to have to publish it because there's no workflow that does that for me. So this is now available. But in order to see it on the site, we need to set up the data source to connect to it. So it has the content we need. So let's go back to our page. It's in this tab. I'm just going to click on this, and I'm going to go to Edit Component Properties. So this brings up this screen, and now I can browse to that item. And if I scroll, there we go. So it's now displaying that rendering with the data that we added. I'm just going to save that. let's submit this. And let's approve it. So that should publish our page. Let's just go to the live site and we'll just get out of that. So there we can see our new component has been added. So let's just add another one. We'll use this lock and edit. And now I'm going to go here and pick content. So hopefully this makes sense. So I'm going to add another one. I'm going to add another rendering, another text image block rendering. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the same item that we've already used. So I've got two renderings sharing the same data source. So if I go into that data source, so if I save this, and actually I can do that right here. It's going to edit this. So if I save, so because they're sharing the same data source, that change appears in both. So you can see how you get the ability to share content. Now let's just go to, let me just show you rendering parameters. So this component has a rendering parameter configured on it, and it's this style under the style section. So this component allows you to control how it's displayed, which is what typical rendering parameters allow. So if I click on this reversed parameter and save it, I can change the look of this component. So now it's going to read that flag and display it in reversed. This one doesn't change because that rendering parameter is specific to the rendering. It's not on it wasn't a data field in our item. It's right on the rendering. So if I go to this one, you'll see it's not. But if I reverse it, then you'll see that now they're both in reverse order. So I'm going to set this one back. So now we've got two renderings using the same data source. So I'm just going to save that. So let's go back to the content editor and let's add another data source. And we'll just go text image block and we'll call it home page block 2. So now we've got two. Let me just put some content. Use the same. Actually, I'll change the text just to make it interesting. Grab some placeholder text. Control A, Control V. Insert an external link. Let's make that a new browser. Pick another background from our banners. This one, say. Save that. So I'm clicking on these locks. That'll just check these items in. I'm going to publish this second one. So now if I go back to Experience Editor and pick this item, go to Edit Component Properties and choose block number 2. Okay. Leave it reversed. Now we can see it's using content from block number 2. So that's the basics of the component model, placeholders, and renderings. What I'd like to do next is just save this. Let's get this page up on the site. There we go. Close this tab. So you may have noticed I've added a page to our site. And this is a content page. And it's a basic privacy page. So what I'd like to do is show how that one works. Let's go into Experience Editor. So this page has a banner. It's the mini banner rendering. It's also got a rich text field. So rich text gives you the ability to put HTML, freeform HTML into your site. So content like this, that's got headers and lists. I don't think there's tables in here, but potentially tables, various links that go outside of the site, for example. Any kind of unpredictable formatting, I guess, is a good candidate for a rich text field. So let's just take a look at, so this component is pretty straightforward, the banner, but let's take a look at this text field. And we'll hit this edit pencil. So now we're in the rich text editor. So this gives us the ability to make changes to this text, but you can see that we're not dealing with simple fields anymore. Now we're looking at something that looks more like a word processor. So we're getting word processor type editing, right? So now this thing is set up as a bullet, and then we have the ability to edit the HTML that's driving this page. So I'm just going to go in, do control find. So here's my addition. And you can see that it's put it inside of a list item, which is why it's got the bullet. So I'm just going to take that out. And all of these things are in. So let's put that right there. And it looks like I've broken the HTML. Oh. So that's HTML, and that this is a very large document is a bit challenging because, yeah, if you make a change that isn't valid, you may get strange display. So I'll do a deeper dive into rich text editing, but I just wanted to give a quick look at how it works and why you might use rich text fields. So it looks like I've got a component here that isn't wired up. So let's deal with that as well. So let's just pick this, and this looks like it's a text image block. So it's like the ones that we added to the home page. I'm just going to edit its properties and give it one of the data sources that we created. And this one is set to reversed. I'm going to set it back. That might give us an idea of why. So I imagine it was reversed because maybe it looked like this text was flowing together. So let's just keep that setting. A lot of scrolling. All right, so now we've got a text block at the bottom of this page as well. So I'm just going to save that. And let's just go to this page. I'm just going to do a publish on it. So we don't have any links to the privacy page. So in order to view it, you're going to have to go to its URL directly. So this item is called privacy, and this name is going to be the name that the URL of the URL to this item. So /privacy should take us to the privacy policy. If I close that, so there's our privacy page. It's got our rich text, this component that we added in our footer. So one last thing I wanted to show is presentation details. So Experience Editor is a great way to edit pages, but sometimes it can take a while to load, and you may want to look at, you may have a lot of components on a page and you want to take a quick look at what you've got. So if you have permission, if your user role has permission to view the presentation details, you can do that. And that's just another way to manage your component stack. So let's just take a look at the home page component stack. So if we go to the final layout, we can see all the components that are on this page. So if I hit edit, so there's the main layout, and the layout is basically represented by this gray area, this gray box. The controls, those are all of our renderings. So you can see we've got the banner, USPs, the two text blocks, text image blocks that we added in the footer. And then underneath these rendering names, you can see placeholder name, which is content, and we've only got one placeholder on the page. If I click one of these, I can hit edit and edit these properties, the same properties that we were able to edit from the Experience Editor. I can also change the order of these components easily here. So let's just take like this image. Let's maybe put these above. Let's put push the USPs into the middle of these two. So now I'm going to publish this. Actually, why don't we just preview it? So now we can see this text image block is been moved up. USPs are here, and then there's the second text image block. So presentation details give us a quick way to move things around, see what we've got on our page, verify that the placeholders are set up the way we expect. And like I said, it can be a faster way to get to some of these items versus loading the Experience Editor all the time. And that rounds it out. So in this lesson, we covered the component model and how it works in Sitecore, how to edit pages using Experience Editor, looked at placeholders and how renderings are added to placeholders, used data sources and we shared content with Datasources, and then we created separate content. So we did quite a bit of work with Datasources and showed how those work. We changed our rendering using a rendering parameter. We reversed our text image block. We also took a quick look at the rich text field, and then I showed the way you can shortcut the experience editor using presentation details. So that's lesson 4, and we'll see you in the next lesson.